As much as I would claim myself to be a theme park enthusiast primarily, I did grow up obsessed with roller coasters too. I found myself mesmerized with them around the age of 10, maybe 11 or so, and my constant research commenced from there. I would beg my parents to take me to my two home parks, Nickelodeon Universe and Valley Fair, respectively, as much as I possibly could. Whenever I went on family trips, vacations, I would always map out how close we would be to the nearest park, and I would try to get to as many of these places as I could in order to ride as many coasters as possible. So throughout that time, I got on some really neat coasters, and I really broke through my fear of certain types of rides, which I'll get to in a little bit here. But there are a couple of coasters that gave me some of the best memories I've ever made, and I really wanted to shout them out today. It kind of explains who I am and how these types of rides have shaped the enthusiast I am today. So without any more rambling, let's get right in. These are 10 roller coasters that have had a significant effect on my life in some facet. First off, we are going to travel to Belmont Park at Mission Beach in San Diego, California. This is Giant Dipper, a 1925 wooden roller coaster made by Frank Pryor and Frederick Church. So a bit of context, I was on a vacation with my grandparents back in the summer of 2012, and we were able to spend a bit of the day here at Belmont. It's this beautiful, very scenic, classic California boardwalk park. But anyway, I remember being so nervous to get on the Giant Dipper. I was only 10 years old at the time, so to kind of warm up, I was doing all the other kiddie rides in the area first. It was this loud, menacing to me, at least at the time, and I wasn't sure about it, right? But my grandma convinced me to be brave, try it out just once, and man, that first ride changed my life. I'm being so serious right now. All the things I was worried about just completely vanished. I immediately knew I was safe, and not only safe, but I was having a blast. I loved every second of it. I remember there being a really short line, and I got back in line there 11 more times that day. That's right, 12 times I went on Giant Dipper in this one day. That memory is so distinct to me. Right after that, I went to go and buy my first coaster t-shirt to kind of celebrate, which I'm pretty sure I still own. But yeah, it was so much fun. I knew immediately after this day that I was a roller coaster fan. This proved it. Not too long after my trip to Belmont Park, I was back at Nickelodeon Universe, wanting to brave Rock Bottom Plunge, a Gerstlauer Eurofighter built with the retheme of the park back in 2008. I had never been on an inverting roller coaster at the time, and the fact that this went upside down twice was really daunting to me. I don't recall my first ride on this extremely well, but I do remember going up that vertical lift for the first time, and what a weird sensation that is. Then, of course, comes the big first drop, a 97-degree beyond vertical drop, which my mom always would call a tickle belly, which is an awesome expression used to describe the weightlessness sensation you get when experiencing big drops like this one on some rides. I would always hear this called a stomach drop, but I like tickle belly better. Anyway, after braving this, I felt so cool. It was a big step forward for me. In hindsight, it really was a great starting looping coaster because it's not too big, it's small, compact. It has just a few brief moments of intensity and then it slows down after them. But I still adore this ride. It will always hold a very special place in my heart. And of course, it really was a big step for me to get on this thing. Flash forward to March 2014, my family went to Disneyland for the first time. I was able to finally check out everything, and that was a ton of fun. But what I was really jonesing to experience here was California Screamin', built by Intamin, opened with the park in February 2001. I had really not ridden anything with a substantial launch at this point, and the thought of it was exciting to me, but still slightly nerve-wracking. But, of course, it's me. I was quickly love-struck by this ride in just about every possible way. The classic California vibes of Paradise Pier, immaculate! This ride had the perfect setting. But, the beginning, the launch track, the anticipation, the build-up, and then finally that amazing ride that follows, and the music that plays along with it. Each little piece of the puzzle for this ride was fantastic. It's so much fun. Such a long ride, too. Full of so many exciting moments and tons of scenery as you can look around at the park from up there. I remember getting off this the very first time and telling my mom, who I had just gotten to ride with, that it was my new favorite roller coaster that I had ever been on. And I miss that so much. It was such a fun first visit. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Incredicoaster. It's the same ride, of course, but I'm talking about California Screamin' because that was my first exposure. That's how I was introduced to this ride, and it was so charming and perfect in every way. Renegade is insanity. Outlaw Coaster is a very fitting tagline for this ride. It's a 2007 GCI wooden roller coaster, still the most recent roller coaster Valleyfair has received. Yeah. To this day, it's one of the greatest wooden roller coasters I've had the pleasure of riding. It was my favorite roller coaster for a while, and because it was one of my home parks, I got to ride it a ton growing up, which was so special in hindsight. And after now having ridden a few more GCIs, it is still nearly impossible for me to describe just how much these rides scramble your brain around and whip you around the course from start to finish, in the very best of ways, of course. And Renegade, like many others on this list, was a ride I found myself pretty nervous to get on back on my first visit to Valleyfair. That first drop near the back, if you're sitting there, is pretty intense, and I have some very nostalgic memories of my grip as I was holding on for dear life for the whole first time I rode this, but of course got off with a big smile. It's always fun to see your picture, too, on this one. But yeah, the layout is perfect. The ambiance and atmosphere, this part of the park, are perfect. I will always be a gigantic fan of Renegade. It's great. Definitely my favorite ride at Valleyfair. 207 feet tall, Wild Thing at Valleyfair. This was my very first hypercoaster. I remember being so nervous that I requested to sit in the middle of the train for the safest and least intense experience possible. Oh man, little Joe, you have so much to learn. Just give it 12 more years, man. You'll be waiting an extra 20 minutes so that you can have the back row or the front row. Wild Thing is a Morgan hypercoaster that opened at the park in 1996, back when Valleyfair was pouring in multi-million-dollar investments to build new coasters. What happened? Would have been fun to grow up during that time. Anyway, this one was special to me because of the height. The long, never-ending lift hill followed by the airtime hills, soaring through the skies. I always loved how it would take you so far around the park, so many different point of views. It was great. Super, super fun. And also, the sound of the brakes and the chain lift for this ride are forever ingrained in my mind. They're so distinct to me. But yeah, such a fun time. I think I appreciate this ride a lot more now than I did back then. Goliath at Six Flags Great America, my first RMC. Honestly, I think this was the last time that I felt true nerves, per se, before getting on a roller coaster. It was the summer of 2014, and my cousins and I were on a trip to Chicago. You know, primarily to go to Six Flags, come on. Something about the gigantic lift hill and the 85-degree, 180-foot drop really got my blood going, though. At this point in my coaster journey, I feel like I was brave enough not to chicken out of anything. So my cousin and I both got on board, you know, hesitantly, but got on board anyway. And man, did this ride give us a rush. It might be short, but every second here is packed with fantastic elements and intensity. I recall having the time of my life here. I think it was really just one ride we were able to get onto, and that was enough to solidify this as top tier for me. Fantastic ride. Been on plenty of RMCs since then, but still, this was such a special moment for me. Up next is Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. In 2016, I got to visit this park for the first time, and Intamin cooked up an absolute riot here, with a breathtaking 82 miles per hour launch to start this ride off. Honestly, that's what gave it this spot. I've always had a big passion for launched coasters, and good grief does this one provide. It's just an incredible force of feelings when this ride gets out of that station, immediately rushing you into the big top hat. I was so thrilled, and I have been wanting to get back here to ride it again so badly. It was my favorite launch for a long time, at least for a few years, before I was finally able to make it to Sandusky. Top Thrill Dragster, Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Intamin Bliss. Oh, I did not realize just how unreal this ride was going to be when I got on that first time. Sitting here right now, just talking about it, I can clearly picture just how intense that launch was. This ride was special. I'm so thankful that I was able to get a few rides on it in the original version. It was instantly my favorite ride. I was with my cousins. It was such a fun time. Speechless. In shock. Somehow, the launch was so intense that it gave you that stomach drop feeling. I mean, that tickle belly feeling. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, this ride was just something special. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. Now we're getting to the recent stuff. So there are two final coasters here that I just have to bring up. These two have become more than just coasters to me, but truly some of my favorite places in the world. But anyway, my first ride on Hagrid's was a nighttime rain ride with my good friend at the time. It was an absolute delight. Foolishly, I don't think I was really expecting much out of this ride due to its stats, but wow, I was so embarrassingly wrong. First of all, it is intense, a lot more than I thought it would be, and it wowed me there for sure. There's so many surprises and magic throughout its course, but what really made all of that feel more elevated was the storytelling that went along with it. You know, sure, the physical ride by itself is great, but when you add this layer, it is not just a coaster, but truly an experience, and a perfect one at that. This ride made me realize just how much I valued good storytelling and theming in an attraction. You know, I've shared rides on this with nearly all my best friends now, even my family too. Hagrid's is just absolutely wonderful. It is a true theme park marvel. And, well, Velocicoaster just about combines everything I love about roller coasters and theme parks alike and puts it together for you in one delicious piece. It is everything that I love about Hagrid's, just up a few notches intensity-wise, you know, just a few. I cannot describe how much I love Velocicoaster. Well, I could try. It's a phenomenal experience from the launch to the brake run. It is crazy fast, whippy, some amazing airtime and inversions, just beautiful rock work and theming. It's just so well made. I rode this over 85 times while I was at school in Orlando, and you know, that wasn't even close to enough. I would ride this every day for the rest of my life if I could. It is not only my favorite roller coaster on this list, not only my favorite roller coaster that I've ridden ever, but it's my all-time favorite attraction, period. You see, I'm a pretty big fan. I like Velocicoaster a little bit. It's just perfect, truly perfect. Well, this video ended up being more of a detailed story of my journey with roller coasters rather than a list, but it was so much fun to reminisce a little bit and talk about some of my favorite rides from growing up until now. If you guys made it this far, I want to thank you so much for watching. Liking and subscribing here would mean the world to me, and I cannot wait to get more videos out to you guys soon. If you have suggestions, advice, ideas, anything you want to let me know, please comment below. Otherwise, enjoy the week, guys. Drink some water, smile. You guys rock. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon.